Hey everyone. I am Jessica Ann of Wildest Dreams, and I am here today with Hal Gill. And I'm gonna let you introduce a little bit about your Substack.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Jessica. And wildest dreams, I love it. I have harrowings, and harrowing is in the idea of both life itself can be harrowing, and also we're churning up the surface of things to see what'll sprout. So we're going to have a conversation about community on Substack, right? You got
Yes, yeah.
people lining up to be a part of it, it looks like. I'll keep an eye.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were just saying, so before we just went live, we were just saying, like, I actually, that sometimes, in these times in our world right now, it seems like the world could crumble at any moment, right?
Right, right.
And we need each other now more than ever, I think. And like that's what, we're talking about is like, yeah, how do you build community, especially in a digital world, right? In an online world, because you're on the East Coast, right? I'm in the Midwest. I talk to people from all over the world though on Substack. Um and so building community, building a global community is important too.
It really is. And I have friends all over the world having traveled a bit. And have you traveled much outside of the country?
Yeah, I actually traveled for about 2 years in South America when my son was a baby. I went a little crazy. We sold or gave away everything we owned and traveled, and I had literally a backpack and a baby was all we had. So,
Wow,
that was the
that's an
experience.
adventure. There's a lot to tell there, a lot to unpack, I'm sure. I didn't do quite that, but I did sort of jettison my worldly possessions and move for love over to Denmark.
Ooh.
The relationship crashed and burned, but I got myself a job over there in my own apartment. So I wasn't like out on my ear or anything when the relationship did not work out. But I had a job and I spent about 2 years living in Copenhagen. So I have that perspective, not South American perspective. So we're in South America. What countries do were you in?
So we were pretty much in Peru, most of the time. So we did woofing, if you're familiar with what that is. It's called, it's like stands for like Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. And so you basically work on an organic farm in exchange for housing and food.
Oh,
Um, so we did that for a few months, and then we traveled, we came back to the United States and actually traveled all the way from Florida, up through, like, Washington and Oregon, staying on different farms and visiting different intentional living communities. So
okay.
again, in the theme of community, that was a big thing is like, how do we figure out how to live together, especially in a country like America where it's such an individualistic society. It was really, really amazing to see people intentionally living in community with one another, all across America. And people are like, I don't know if you've heard of this, was like, we even went to it's called The Farm in Tennessee. It's
Okay.
like it was started in like the 70s. It's kind of like the quintessential 1970s commune.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
They are not a commune anymore. They are more of like a collective of different houses and people were living near each other and working together. But so we saw everything from like that perspective to we did stay in a few communities that actually had completely shared 100% shared income,
Yeah.
multiple families in a house together. It was a really amazing experience, and actually, I wrote down my entire travel, so that's another nonfiction book that I will probably publish someday.
Oh, yeah.
Um, of all of those travels, and really, but like, I think the important thing that I learned, I guess, the biggest thing that I took away from all of that is just like seeing how other people live. I think is so important. Just to give us perspective, to give us it helps us be open-minded. It helps us be able to have compassion and empathy, and like being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes is really like, but if you stay insular and you stay in like a small community or a small town and you never leave and never experience like someone different than you, then like I think that is so destructive to our world. And so I think getting out, traveling, is a huge part of what we need in our world today. So
It is. I don't get as much opportunity to do it as I used to, but, my wife has had a stroke,
Mm.
about 2009, and traveling is more difficult for us, but we do try to get out and walk around the city of Washington, DC, where the world comes to us, right? To
Yeah,
some
I
extent, I'm
bet.
seeing people from all over the world all the time. Walking down the street, you're apt to hear lots of different languages. I live across the street from the
Mm.
Embassy of Albania, so I'll say, "Well, I've gotta unpark back my groceries, I guess because there are no parking spaces nearby, I've gotta park in Albania and
Oh
bring
my
my
gosh.
groceries in," because technically it's Albanian territory, right?
Mm.
All that doesn't work that way, and we have the Embassy of Moldova next door to my little garden
Oh,
here.
wow.
If you ever find the Embassy of Moldova, the garden next to it is the way into my bunker.
Oh my gosh,
And
that's so
we have
cool.
serious security, so be careful. It says so on the little stickers on the windows. Um, so anyhow, what I'm getting to, I guess, is that you've written a book recently and have been out on book tour a little bit. Tell me more about that. What book is it? What's the theme?
Yeah.
What are we talking?
Yeah, thank you for the chance to talk about my book because 'cause I've been
Yes,
talking
please.
to so I am, I think I said this on a Substack note, but I am an absolute extrovert, which is hard as a writer because I do love people so much, and I do love talking to people and connecting with people, but I've also worked from home since 2021,
Okay.
and I've been, writing, full time, for the last year,
Uh-huh.
and so being at home alone is hard for me sometimes,
I'll bet.
even though I do love writing also, and I do think I put a lot of my love of people and community and connection into my books. And so like my characters, while they're not always extroverted and stuff like me, I do put a lot of my energy, I guess, into my characters. And so
Okay.
I do think that's one of the things that people who have read it now so far, is that they connect to the characters in the story. So anyways, here's a copy of it. It is woven in time, and you can't read this, but,
Yeah, nice blurbs on the back. Yeah.
yeah, I can read the back cover blurb really quick,
Okay.
if people aren't familiar with it. So, across centuries, 3 women are bound by an invisible thread, one that dares them to question everything and follow what whispers in their souls, because it turns out we are far more magical than we ever imagined. 1307 England. Miriam, a weaver's daughter, longs for more than her impending arranged marriage. When she meets a handsome monk and begins practicing magic in a secret mystery school, she begins she has found her true path, until the Earl begins hunting heretics and her new powers may cost her life. 2017 California. Leah, an atheist fortune teller and boxed wine connoisseur, just wants peace during a brutal custody battle and debilitating migraines. But when a strange journal from the 1300s arrives addressed to her, she is drawn into a mystery that challenges everything she believes.
Wow.
2307 New Soteria. Karaya, a rising marketing analyst, witnesses an impossible murder in a world where crime was supposedly eradicated. Thrust into the dark underbelly of society, she learns of disturbing government cover ups, repressed childhood memories, and her own connection to a 1,000-year-old prophecy. As fate and free will collide, Miriam, Leah, and Karaya must unravel their past, face their deepest fears, and embrace their power. Ultimately, they must decide, will they accept the lives written for them or risk it all and step into the unknown?
Well, that's fascinating. So you've got 3 different time periods being woven together
Yes.
in this novel. Is it available as a, audiobook yet?
It is not in audio yet. So right now it's just in paperback and ebook. Audio and hardback are in the plans. I just have to it takes so to do audio, I want to use an actual voice actor, not AI, which I know that's a possibility nowadays, but
Yep.
um I do want to hire someone, but realizing that is an expense. So hoping I make enough money, in the beginning of next year through paperback and ebook sales that I can afford to get the audio version going. Because yeah, a lot of people have asked for the audio already.
Yeah, the reason I ask largely is that my wife goes to the library all the time via the internet now,
Hmm.
and she has all these systems that I don't even understand where she gets books on tape to listen
Yeah,
to,
probably
and she
Hoopla.
doesn't read
Yeah.
a physical book very often. In fact, I think she'd like me to jettison all my physical books, um, which I've had many and too many. And I was just looking around. I've been actually reading a book. I started yesterday, and I'm continuing to do that. I'm reading this book
Okay.
on Facebook or Substack Live to people. It's a museum of early American tools by Eric Sloan, fairly thin volume. Unfortunately, it's old and is beginning to crack, but it's near and dear to my heart as preservation of historic trades is, because we're going to need to know how to make things. This is not just about making your own stuff, but making the tools to make your own stuff.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit of fun. Um, and, reading it out loud to people doing voiceover work has been interesting to me as well. Now, getting back to the communes and things of that sort, we had a few comments coming in here. Did you see those go by?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is where I don't. Okay,
Bragg,
scroll back through. Yeah.
I've got it. The Bragg Foundation had those in the 60s, 70s, and 80s where you could work at farms. However, social media changed all that. So the best part of this, your commentary, is to know it's here again now and possible.
Yes.
Great sharing. Appreciated that. I think the same speaker, Angel Woods, is saying this is an exceptional read.
Thank you.
Probably read your book. Mr. Hill, your office is like mine. I think she's referring to me.
Yep.
And go to the colleges. They're very talented young public speakers that I'm sure would be glad to do a dissertation or reading for you for a nominal fee. Or I would. I don't know. The yeah, those young people, they're sucking up all the jobs, right? Well, AI is, you don't want an AI voice to do it though. You'd like a human voice to do it. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah, that's actually so speaking with AI, because obviously that's a big thing, especially in the writing community. And you
Mhm.
talk a lot about not maybe not a lot, but like you've mentioned AI,
Yep.
in your Substack, and it's actually something I've been meaning to post about is because I will say, like, I'm not opposed to AI. I don't use AI in my writing. So for my creative writing, like, that's me. That's a line I've drawn for myself. I do use AI for organizing, for like helping me when I was planning my book launch and all of this stuff, like what are
Yep.
all the steps that I need to do, you know, to make sure, I have everything ready. And like that's where I think AI is very helpful as a tool, as a resource that we can use. Now, what some people don't realize that AI can be wrong. And so we do have to like fact check that. So if we are using AI in a way that is using it like Google or, doing research in that regard, for publishing or whatever it may be, like just be aware that AI can be wrong. And so like I do use AI for I guess like organizational and researching type stuff for my business, for an author business, but I don't use it for my creative writing. So I'm curious how you interact with AI. Um
Well, I
yeah.
did I did give it a feed one time. I decided I was interested in charting the great books. Are you familiar with the great books that were published back in the 50s, 40s, somewhere down there
Mm.
by Britannica?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Britannica is
I
a
mean,
full
I know the
set of
encyclopedia.
books.
I grew up, my grandma had them on her bookshelf.
Right. Well, you got that, and a lot of us did grow up with encyclopedias in hand,
Mhm.
surfing through those to kill the hours,
Yep.
childhood. I know World Book Encyclopedia was like my go-to. We didn't have Britannica in the house, but they did at the library, research library, where my father worked as a historian for Colonial Williamsburg. So I had access to the Britannicas there and delved into them. But the point being that the great books were these series of books that they said was like the great conversation, but over
Mhm.
the ages, we are time binding entities. And I wanted to chart them against two axes. One was Melville's Moby Dick, the other was Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow.
Okay.
So the AI did sort of a parsing of those, saying, well, this is kind of utopian and about obsession and, the white whale and, a very spiritual, cosmic kind of vision that Melville had in Moby Dick, versus Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow is very much about this sort of paranoid, apocalyptic kind of world. And if you chart these two features, you can put Shakespeare here at like 10:7 on a 10-to-1 scale, see a 10-to-0 scale on these two axes. And then there was another axis that built into it when I had it write a novella
Hmm.
about this archive where the works of literature are being then, and then like the world authority decided to get as future thing,
Yeah.
to get a hold of all the data and chart it all against this matrix, which would be able to do predictive analysis then
Uh-huh.
where you were going to have problems and needed to manage people where they would just be like happy and content with their lot in life and continue to run the machinery.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I did that little novella, which was AI generated, and it resonated well enough with me that I threw it out there, and I said it was AI generated. I think that's
Yeah.
important to say what
Yeah,
it is. And, then did analysis on it using AI, saying how AI generated is this? How obvious is it and why? What are the red flags that show? And that's interesting, right? To be able to do the analysis using the tools to analyze themselves.
yeah,
So a
yeah.
lot of it is me taking stuff that I'm finding out there and saying, hey, is this AI slop? And then it says, oh, yeah, this has all the hallmarks of it. Well, is that a bad thing? I'm, because humans also do slop.
It's
You know,
true.
we you might be a great novelist and your book might be, a piece of literature, long term, I hope so.
I hope so too.
And I think that we need art, literature, and music to set ourselves apart from our machinery.
Mhm.
It's kind of terrifying when you hear that the latest country hit, the number one, is AI generated. I got to do fact checking on that. I heard it on Colbert,
I
in
don't what was
past.
it? I don't think I'm not always in the mainstream news
I
paying
don't
attention
I
to
just heard it
shit.
on Colbert when Pete Townsend was being interviewed, and Pete's pretty enthusiastic about AI
Okay.
and running his, catalog of tunes he hasn't released yet through it and doing things with it. He's an early adopter of technologies, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of what he was talking about in the Lifehouse project, Pete Townsend of The Who, yeah, was about a future in which everything is on the grid, as it was called, right?
Okay.
And the relay, you're on the relay. And, he had foreseen the internet coming
Mm. Okay.
in 1970, 71. And of course, by the time the DARPA challenges happened, you get the hookup of two computers talking to each other and they start to write login. They just get as far as low.
Yeah.
Familiar with that one?
I haven't seen that one, no.
So there's a movie out by Werner Herzog about the internet called Lo and Behold.
Mhm.
And some of our AI, um, you know, frontiersmen, to
Okay.
put it bluntly,
Yeah.
um, or they were saying things like, I don't think you really want your refrigerator and your stove to necessarily feel empathy so much so that they start falling in love with each other and, won't do their work because they're depressed because the stove isn't returning the refrigerator's
Mhm.
affections. I thought that was lovely. Um, I don't know, I'm exploring, I'm feeling my way. I think we all are to some extent. I was at a conference recently here in DC
Mhm.
on it was called Enterprise AI World, and it was coming out of the knowledge management area, which is near and dear to my heart because my parents are both archivists, and they met in the state archives as young archivists.
Oh, okay.
Without AI available, my mother was there because she knew how to type. And she was coming off the farm in North Carolina where they were living in like 18th century conditions in the 1950s. I think it was sometime in the 50s that my grandfather finally got a tractor. He had farmed with mules up until that time.
Oh,
So,
wow.
you know, we're not so far removed from that pre-industrial society when we had to make our own tools,
Mhm.
to make tools, to do other things, and we need each other as human beings because we're not that far evolved from our forebears. In fact, we're very genetically closely related. That's another thing I've been doing with AI is digging into things. And what your time woven in time
Yeah.
not relates to this, in my view, is that I'm thinking in 700-year increments, 1325 to 2025.
Mhm.
So I think it's very interesting that your novel sort of goes there as well. And then think 2725. So what were your years again? It was 13th
So I have
century
yeah, so I've
to
1300s, present day, and then 2300s. So
they
about
didn't go to
1,000
27.
years.
Okay.
Yeah.
2300. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I can imagine what the
Stuff
world
in
looked like.
my 2300 timeline though is like already kind of happening, and I'm like, "Oh, shoot, this is not quite dystopian or future anymore." We're getting closer to it. Um,
Yes.
but
That's
but I
so
do
fast, right?
but I think that one thing, so as you were talking, thinking about AI, like I think there's always, and thinking about like the internet, like when the internet became a thing, when the AI became a thing, like there's always going to be a little bit of that fear that this is going to spiral out of control, and probably to some degree it will. But it also, I guess, like this is where like I believe in humans, and I don't think there's ever going to be an AI that can replace what a human does, and the connection that humans have with each other, and the writing that a human can do versus AI. Like I just think that that will still succeed, and like even because people want real. Like, we crave that depth, the real connection.
Authenticity. Yeah.
Yes, and, like, even thinking about you're talking about, your was it your parents that met in the archives that were kind of living this very, like, rural life and having to make a lot of their stuff. So, one of the things when I was traveling and, we were living in Peru and on these different farms. A lot of them are off grid. A lot of them are making their own stuff. And what I learned in that, and then I actually, for another year after that, I lived off grid on a farm in Missouri, actually. Um, and so we only had a solar panel and a wind turbine for our electricity and a wood burning
Wow.
stove. I cooked everything by fire. And it was what it made me realize is it made me feel connected to the food I was putting into my body. Like I and I still to this day, while I don't live, I don't cook with a wood burning stove anymore. I do appreciate some modern technology. I still make all my own bread. I still, do sourdough. I still make my own tortillas. I still make so much stuff from scratch
Great.
because I learned the value that, like, I grow my own garden. I have like I had a small farm for a long time, like, because I value the realness of that. And I think like there's nothing that's ever going to replace that. Even I can buy my own bread, but I choose not to. And I think like even in a world of AI, people are still going to seek out that real life connection. They're going to seek out human written stories. And like you said, it's what separates us. Like that's the important part. Like, so yeah, I'm not afraid of AI taking over my job because I know I'm not going to be replaced. I can't be. Um, but I do think we have to probably go through this like uncomfortable period of time that we're probably in right now where AI is blowing up and people are trying to I don't even make movies with AI and do all of this. And I think we're going to push back. I think we're going to pull back at some point, but it is a tool. It is a resource we can use. I think we'll figure out how to live with it. But I think we're in a weird space right now where people are trying to do everything with AI. So,
Well, people are doing a lot of things with the kind of generative AI through chatbots and such, yes, and coding with it, which is interesting. And, the whole idea of being able to generate a website by touch of a button, lovely idea. Better production values for my podcasts, because I'll be AI enabled. I love the ability to do that with technology. But as far as the impetus for doing stuff, that has to come
mhm.
out of my imagination.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't think that it's ever going to be able to imagine things quite the way we do. And if you look under the hood, what's happening is ones and zeros are being transformed.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's doing a wonderful job of that. It's pretty miraculous what it's able to do with our language and how it's able to pretend it's real. Like
Yeah.
it's a real boy, it's a Pinocchio syndrome all of a sudden.
Yeah, it can
Um,
sound very real. Yeah.
and that can be really you know, deceptive for
Mhm.
people, and I think that being true to people is really important. Having these conversations, one conversation at a time, seeing what it sparks in other people wanting to come on to your podcast or mine
Mhm.
and talk about these things, gold. I've think that building the community, though, is something I've just begun to sort of think about,
Mhm.
and in Substack land in particular, because Substack seems very different than other
I love
platforms.
yeah.
Lack of advertising. I mean, we're advertising you right now, right? Lack of
Yes.
lack of real sponsorship as such. I've seen others like, Mayim Bialik. Are you familiar with her?
Mhm. Yeah, she's
She's
an
moved
actress,
her
right?
Yeah, and she's also a neuroscientist of
Oh.
sorts. She has a couple of PhDs, I think, in the field.
Oh, okay.
So she's a legitimate, neuroscientist as well as a actress, and her significant other, Jonathan Cohen, gets on with her, and they do a thing called the breakdown. And they've been
Oh,
doing
okay.
that on Substack for a long time, or not on Substack, but on YouTube,
Mm.
or you can find it there, or on the different podcast platforms, Spotify, all those.
Yeah.
But Substack they moved to because they realized the platform basically would push it out into those different venues. Like what we're
Mhm.
doing here, I don't know how your settings are, but mine are such that it would break it up automatically into clips of
Yes. Yeah.
topics we talked about. It'll send it over to YouTube in its entirety as well as in YouTube Shorts. It'll send it out to Spotify, to Acast, to Apple Podcast, and people can pick it up there and find it. Being findable,
Yeah.
being able to be found on the net, I think has been something that's been fascinating to me since the beginning.
Mhm.
But and I've been able to see that, oh, we can build these communities without boundaries, right? I was talking a lot to David Gantz about this in one of my podcasts. I don't know if you know who that is. He's the host of the Grateful Dead Hour on
Oh, okay.
Sirius XM Radio, and he also has another show on there called Tales from the Golden Road, which is like a call in for deadheads.
Mm.
So he's been in the field for so long doing documentary research and, organizing, his interviews with different members of the
Mhm.
band over the years. And one of the things that he picked up on, and one of the Grateful Dead's lyricists was into, and I'm looking over here because I'm looking for the book. There it is.
Mhm.
Um, this one, Mother American Night, John Perry Barlow. It says, "My Life in Crazy Times." And this guy who was a lyricist for the Grateful Dead was also a rancher in Wyoming. And he said, we've finally got a community that has no boundaries, that is not limited to a certain
Yeah,
geography.
geographic region, yeah.
Right. We've shrunk the world down to this distance
Mhm.
between the phone and you and me. And we can now, you know, bring our minds together, bring that idea that Teilhard Chardin had of the noosphere into reality, in which there's a non-hierarchical noded network, each one of us being a node on that network,
Yeah.
and we can support each other. We can also fight each other. And you see the media sort of like keeping us divided by focusing on those
Yeah.
fights. And you see some of the social media having gone that way too. I don't know if you watched The Social Dilemma.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and there was another one called The Antisocial Network. A lot
Mhm.
of these documentaries are my bread and butter for just keeping my mind active.
Yeah.
But thinking, what is the solution to that? Well, the solution is kind of what they did in an organization called the Oxford Groups years ago. That became moral rearmament about 1938, I think. If my memory's right. And then it changed its name in 2001 to Initiatives of Change. Where it was initially very religiously based, Frank Bookman, a Lutheran raised Pennsylvanian, was behind it at the beginning, but it's now non secular. And
Okay.
it's about getting conversations going so that people talk to each other and reconcile. And they were responsible in large part for the reconciliation of France and Germany after World War II.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you see the transformation that can happen when people are
Yeah.
willing to talk to one another.
Yeah.
That also, the kinds of things that John Perry Barlow got up to included founding the Electronic Frontiers Foundation, which I highly recommend that people know about
Yeah.
because it's trying to protect your freedom of speech online,
Mhm.
where they're the people who would like to shut it down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's exactly what we were talking about at the very beginning of this. So if people missed, we were talking
Mm,
about just traveling and the beauty of meeting people who are different than you, because yeah, the people in power, the people who are in control of our world and our systems would absolutely want to keep us divided.
yeah,
They want us to think that we are more different than we are alike. And the reality is we have way more in common with each other than we do with them, actually. That's
and we're
what's so
finding
funny.
that out as we're talking. The things that you're doing and the way I'm thinking is very much in sync.
Mhm.
Several different time zones,
Yeah.
1325. Think about your ancestors in 1325. I mean, the real
Mm.
ancestors who gave rise to you being here now. How many connections there have had to be? Is that a
Yeah.
construction? Well, you get the idea. How many people had to get together, like each other enough to be together, to create more children, to ripple
Mhm.
effect us down into being?
Yeah.
I love thinking about things like that and how far back that is. That's 1325. It's not that far back
Yeah. Yeah, in
when
the
you get
large
down
scheme
to it.
of things, yeah, in terms of
Yeah,
yeah, humanity, it really isn't.
it's a blip.
Mhm.
And we had the Black Death right after that. Also a fascinating
Yeah, my
period.
book doesn't get into that. I was like, "That's gonna be too complicated." I kept mine in the early 1300s. But that's what I love. So one of the things I thought of last week after
Mhm.
our last chat, well, I got really sick. Oh my gosh. Like I was
I'm
literally
sorry.
sick on my book launch date, but I was like, it's fine. I was so sick for like a week. But our last chat, we talked one of the things I thought about after I talked to you was that we have something to learn from every person we meet.
Right,
And like you said, it's just the ability to like change the world one conversation at a time. And I really think that comes down to that. And I was thinking what I learned from you the last time we chatted. Because I was just amazed at the wealth of knowledge you have of history, and I am generally a future oriented person, so a lot of times I'm looking ahead,
right.
and just learning from you and how much wealth and information there is in our past is really important too. But the other thing was I was amazed by your confidence in your ability to just, like, reach out to someone and, like, connect, like, "Oh, I loved this book that I just saw. I'm just gonna, like, contact the author and, like, have a conversation with them. I'm just gonna call this person up. I'm just gonna" and I was like, "Oh my gosh. Why don't I do that more often?" And, like,
Right.
maybe even 9 out of 10 times, if you contact someone, maybe they won't get back to you, but maybe you'll be surprised and they will. And again, like, that's how we make these connections. And I think about like my book, and I truly believe that it is a story that will ripple out into our world and it'll reach the right people. But also, part of me is like, I'm also hoping it'll just get noticed by someone who maybe has a million or more followers on some one of these social platforms.
Well, that's
And so
right.
I'm like, but also maybe I can send it to someone. Maybe I can reach out to, like, I don't have to wait for someone to notice it. And I kind of thought about you. I was like, if it was Hal, he would just be contacting whoever he wants.
Well, yeah, that may be true to some extent. It looks like you have right now 3,800 or 3,800 subscribers plus.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Thank you.
Not bad at all. I only have like 730 right now, but I feel like
You
that's a
should.
lot because
Yeah.
I'm like just starting out, really. When did you start your Substack, by the way? How long ago?
February
Yeah,
this year.
you're right tearing up the tracks. So you're doing something right. I could probably learn from you because
Well,
I'm going slower, but then again, I'm weirder. I think you're at least focused enough to write a book, right?
yeah. I am
Like,
also weird, but I am also organized. I tell you.
Well, I'd love to chat about that, the organization, what it's taken for you to get that book out there.
Yeah.
You're talking about being extroverted, so the book tour thing is working really well for you, right? When you get to talk to
So
other
I
people?
haven't done any. I have only actually just gone out and talked to bookstores
Okay.
about getting my book, because it's a process. Like, they first have to, especially
Mhm.
since I am an indie author, so I am self published. I
Okay.
didn't try, like, a lot of people I know still in our, it's 2025. We shouldn't be looking down on self published authors because it takes a lot of work, but people still do. And so it is harder for a self published author to get into stores. And so, yeah, I've been having a lot of conversations with bookstores, and it's a process. They have to review the book, make sure they want to buy copies, things like that. But yeah, I'm planning a few events actually, and I'm so
Okay.
excited. So
Well, we're going to push those out on Harrowings for sure. And then
I
that's just a
am,
little drop in the pond, and maybe some of my people will pick it up. I'm all about the people picking up what I'm laying down, right?
yeah,
It's an old hipster kind of phrase, but I relate a lot to that generation that
yeah.
went right before mine, right?
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, yeah, I actually wore, I don't know if you can see, it is like my hippie, one of my hippier shirts.
What has it got on it? I can see
It's
the.
Dark Side of the Moon, it's Pink, we
Uh-huh.
talked about it last time. Um,
Okay.
it's my favorite Pink Floyd album.
And I was just from 12 to 1 on the phone with Sunny Triple, who's been a guest here on Harrowings and helped me interview David Gantz, actually, when she finally got through the technical difficulties, as they're always kind of distracting.
Mhm.
But we do a voice lesson every so often. I want to try to refine my voice for exactly the type of thing you're talking about,
Okay.
like voiceover work. And, you know, starting it out, I haven't really done a lot beyond reading stuff myself into Substack,
Yeah.
but I've been told that I have a voice for radio, maybe a face
You do
for
kinda have
tomorrow.
a radio voice, yeah. I would not wanna do my own voice,
Yeah.
my own audiobooks, but I actually know 2 people who do audio
Yeah.
books already, so, I'll probably reach out to them too, but I don't
But,
know, yeah, when the audiobook will come, but it'll be at some point.
and now I remember why I mentioned Sunny. She just did a Dark Side of the Moon in its entirety
Yay.
on stage on the 8-5-10 and fundraiser for Ron Holloway, saxophone player who's down on his luck these days. Health problems put him into a senior living facility or whatever. And, you know, it's just really hard to make it when you're a performing musician and maybe didn't save up enough money to take care of your retirement and your dotage. So,
Mhm.
it's nice that the community comes together and plays music
Yeah.
and raises some funds, and that's
Mhm.
important. And I think we can do a lot. And I think that I've always been impressed by people who are trying to move the needle in a positive direction because I'm pretty much feeling like the job I was doing for 20 plus years as an enterprise architect for the federal government has not done much more than pulled a lot of money into my pockets. And then I've been channeling that out
Mhm.
and since working on Substack alone, I really need those paid subscriptions, of course, and I've got about 17 people doing it. So I consider them to be my board of directors for the Harold B. Gill Foundation, LLC, that I started after losing the last gig so that I could steward my father's legacy.
Mhm.
And that's projecting into the future as well, because if we forget our history, we won't know, things
Mhm.
like the concepts that caused Williamsburg to be founded coming out of the work of John Locke, something my father unveiled in the course of his research, which was that John Locke specifically advocated for Williamsburg's foundation and had in mind pretty clearly the two treatises on government that he wrote about how, the government basically serves at the will of the people.
Yeah.
And this concept is really important for us to understand that people have the power.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'll pick up something like right now, I'm between Patti Smith shows. I saw her at the Anthem performing your 50th anniversary of Horses show. And I'm going to
Mhm.
be at the Lincoln Theater on the 19th, Friday, watching her talk about Bread of Angels, her latest piece of memoir work that she's got out there. Um,
Okay.
and if you haven't checked it out, please do.
Okay,
You
Patti
might
Smith?
be inspired by it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Patti Smith. And she's
Yes,
on
I will.
Substack. And what I love about her on Substack is she just goes on and talks about whatever's on her mind with her subscribers. And a
Yeah.
lot of times she's not sure what's on her mind. So we end up anywhere. And most recently, she was reading, not most recently, actually, I think it's the second most recent one she has out there right now for us. She's reading from Uncle Wiggily, a
Okay.
children's book that she had when she was a child that she picked up a new copy of because her original was
Yeah.
lost somewhere in the transitions of life. But it's kinda charming, in a way. My wife hates it. She's got no patience for any of this stuff. To her, it's kind of
Again, we
like
need all kinds of people.
she loves listening to her books, though, and a lot of times they're romantic, sort of
Mhm.
historical things too, Outlander series, you're
Oh, I
probably
love
familiar with that.
Outlander.
And it sounds like you're on the same vein. Sounds like you're doing something very similar. Do you know Philippa Gregory's work? Yeah, that's also kind of like that. It's White Queen and other
Oh, okay.
things from that period. It fascinates me because my grandmother was a Magna Carta dame. Do you know what Magna Carta dames are?
I know the Magna Carta, but I don't know what Magna Carta dames
Well, the
is.
Magna Carta barons and the Magna Carta dames are the society of people who can trace their lineage indisputably back to the barons who forced King John to sign the Magna Carta in 1215. Now, what's kind of fascinating about that, and people who are like descendants of Charlemagne and descendants of William the Conqueror or whoever, you get back that far, you're descended from more people than
Yeah.
exist. If it's parent, grandparent, etc., without intermarriages. Because of intermarriages, there's something called pedigree collapse, which means that you and I are probably cousins within like 7, 8, 10 generations or so.
Yeah. At some point, it gets
Yeah,
yeah.
because families were bigger, a lot of them died out, and then the people
Mhm.
who are here now, like I was saying about that 1325 mark, when I started
Mhm.
doing AI analysis and stuff, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so how many people alive today are not descended from one or more of the people who were my direct ancestors in 1325? And it turns out nobody.
Oh, wow.
Probably
That's
nobody
crazy. Yeah.
on the whole planet due to intermarriages and stuff. Now, it may not be true, but we are genetically very similar.
Yeah.
And there's very little variation in human genome. So I think that's kind of fascinating. And I think about that a lot when I'm thinking about how we are like a hive and how dependent we are on one another. Just in the very fact of like, I do not know how to make titanium frames at all. I'm sure I could learn it, but I don't have to because
Yeah.
somebody else knows how to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to make this fabric. My mother knew when she was out there picking cotton in the field, but I don't have that knowledge of how to do it. And I'm not sure she knew how to make this
Yeah.
particular dye. This is a piece of swag from a Karina Reichman show. I don't know if you know who Karina Reichman is, but I like to tout musicians I stumble across. And I found her by going to a thing during the pandemic. The pandemic's been great for bringing the world together, actually, in this aspect. I mean, it's terrible that we have a disease that's killed so many people,
Mhm.
but, there's death basically kills everybody eventually. So I don't get as upset about that as some people might. Um, Getting back to the pandemic and what linked me to the person whose shirt this is a part of the merch for,
Yeah.
um, it was a thing called Justice Comes Alive that was put on by musicians all over the place.
Oh.
And they were using the technology that was available
Were they doing, like,
to
the Zoom
stream it.
concerts?
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
a one-day thing or, like, whole
Mhm.
day or whole weekend thing where all these different musicians were coming on and you could watch the performances and you could
Yeah. Yeah,
throw
I
money
remember
their
that.
way. You
Yeah.
remember that particular one or the others?
I mean, I just heard I don't know if it was that particular one, I can't I'm bad with
A lot
remembering
of
supervisor
fundraisers.
names.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
And
But
in that
yeah,
case,
like
they were really looking at the Black Lives Matters movement and raising money for that.
Mhm.
And I don't know where people fall on the political spectrum of these things, but we're all one species and we
Mhm.
can help each other out if we're willing.
Yeah.
And fighting each other is not the right way to go, I don't believe. I think we're going to have to break down those kinds of tendencies to demonize one group of people versus
Mhm.
another.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, we our little apocalypse we were talking about before this may be coming more swiftly than we realize. I mean, we
Yeah.
just saw all this violence in the news, and we see it all the time, really.
Mhm.
Looking for it, it's there.
It is, yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to, is it really we have to find our, yeah, commonalities, we have to come together because we have more in common. The everyday person, like, I want to feed my family, I want to take care of my children, I want to make a living, I want to share my
Right,
passions, like, with the world, I want to do the thing that I like and enjoy, and I think
right.
we like, that's what it comes down to, that's what everybody wants, and instead, again, like, these billionaires and people in power and these corporations, they want to keep us separate. And I think, like, we and the beauty of the internet, of places like Substack, is like we can find each other, we can connect. And so, like, that is, yeah. My dream for our world is that we can create a more beautiful world, and we're gonna have to do it, one person at a time. It's not these people aren't gonna give up power willingly. But I really do think at some point the system will crumble, that we're living in. It's just not sustainable. There's only so much wealth and stuff that they can hoard and try to sell back to us before they run out of stuff. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, this is one of the big dangers, they say, of unaligned AI, is that
Mhm.
it could just decide that, "Oh, you want me to optimize paperclip manufacturing?" That's the old joke, right? And it converts everything to paperclips.
Mhm.
The entire Earth gets converted into paperclips
Yeah, I feel like I've
out of the
seen, like, a
material resources.
dystopian, what was it, Philip K. Dick series that was done on Amazon a
Yes.
while ago. I
Right,
had one that was a similar one
love
where they
that.
were just making packages even though the
And they
whole
just kept
planet
coming, and then they went there,
was extinct, yeah.
they broke in, right? And then they discovered they themselves were
Yeah.
robots.
Yeah, and they were just creating more people to consume more goods, yeah.
Have you seen Ex Machina yet? I saw it for the first time recently. It's 10
Yeah,
years
I've seen
old.
it. I saw it years ago, so
Yeah, it's
again,
a decade old, so
yeah, yeah. But, I am
similar.
gonna have to go
Oh,
soon,
okay. Well,
but
let's wrap it up to
yeah.
say let's wrap it up to say to the people who are on here. I see Barbara at Project Ken, which is something like this, I think, that we're talking about. Bring what you have to us and connect. Don't
Yes.
just listen,
Yeah,
but
reach out.
interact and follow and subscribe. I'm of the convinced that, Substack advertises itself as a platform, um, that is a new engine for for the new economic engine for culture,
Yeah,
and it's our culture is all of us together,
yeah.
and it can be that economic engine. We can support each other. I subscribe to, like, I forget how many different Substacks, about 90 of them. And I'm gradually turning the taps too because I can't sustain it because I have 17 subscribers myself who are
Mhm.
paying subscriptions. So I need that. And we can do that for each other. Somebody subscribed to me by accident the other day I was talking about. And I decided, well, that's okay. Um, I've subscribed to them as well in
Mm,
return. So reciprocate that.
there you
Because I
go.
think that's so important to be reciprocal as well, and I can't do anything but be the change I wanna see in the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
Every cent spent is a vote for the kind of world we're co-creating, and then I'll let you have the last words.
Yeah, I was just saying too, like, and sometimes I am not someone that necessarily has so much monetary excess that I can, financially support, but, like, that's why I wanna do these conversations. Like, I have an audience of almost 4,000 subscribers here, and so I can hopefully help other people reach you and your Substack and the great work you're doing. And so, like, using whatever resources that you have, to uplift other people. And with that, I actually just announced today in my Substack that I'm going to be partnering with another Substack called One Brilliant Arc. They're a storytelling company, and they work with authors, and want to support authors.
Oh, send
Um,
me there.
yeah, so we're going to be starting to do indie author spotlights. So starting. There is a form you can fill out to apply. It's free. It's not a paid thing. So you can apply to be highlighted if you are an indie writer, if you have a book published, if you are currently writing a book, if you just have a book idea, but you feel like you have this story to tell and it's you want to get it out. That's what we want to highlight. We want to highlight indie authors who have a story they need to tell, and help them find their
Wonderful.
readers. And
That's wonderful.
so, yeah, and those will go out on Substack Live. They also have a podcast, so that'll go out to like Spotify and YouTube, also Instagram. But I want to give back and support other indie authors, and so that's kind of the next project coming up in this new year that I'll be working on.
That is great to hear. I'm really impressed. Brilliant arc. Is that correct?
One brilliant arc, or OBA, OBA, as it's shortened.
Brilliant arc.
Yeah,
OBA.
I'll link them in this post. So then if people do want,
Great.
and the form that they can fill out, if you are an indie author and you're listening to this and you want to talk about your story, I know creatives, if you're like me, sometimes you struggle with self-promotion too.
Yes, I know I do. I have a hard time asking. I have a very easy time giving.
There you go.
And,
Same. I'm the same way. I'm like, at some point I have to stop over giving and like receive a little love too. So
yeah, a while back I was promoting this one, Lisa Law's Flashing on the 60s and her Museum of the 60s. And, that just like you said, when I got the stuff from her that I'd ordered after seeing her during the pandemic on one of these shows, she called me up.
that's awesome.
And I was really surprised. I'm nobody in particular, but I could take what gift she gave to me and try to amplify it as broadly as I possibly could. And it worked out. She actually did field a pop-up museum of the 60s in Santa Fe in 2022, I think it was,
Oh,
and it
okay.
ran for a while. Some of my friends actually went and had personal tours given by her. She was responsible for the free kitchen at Woodstock, supplying it with
Oh,
paper
wow.
cups and paper plates and stuff in 1969. So, an interesting character. She's been on Harrowings as a guest, and maybe I'll have her back one of these days. So, look for Harrowings podcast as
Yes,
well. You should be my guest one of these days so we can talk it up on that channel. But I've
we
seen
will
some
do
of
that.
my regulars coming in here, so great.
That's awesome. Yeah, and thank you
Crossing the
all.
friends.
Thank you everyone who tuned in and commented. I appreciate all the support, and yeah, if you guys don't follow Hal, make sure you go give him a subscribe, and likewise. So, stay tuned for more. We'll be back. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
both,
Hal. It was so
and
great
thank you
talking to
all.
you.
Bye.
Bye.